Hello, everyone. So for the final time of the Global Innovation Forum this year, that countdown has now finished. No one has exploded, happily, at the end of that, which is what it always sounds like to me. And what a few days we've had. I hope you've all enjoyed it as much as I have. My job now really is to try and sum up some of the key themes, but before I do that, I just want to reflect on this event really just for a moment, because it's the first time that we've done it virtually, and one impressive experience. I think, yes, there have been some inevitable bumps in the road. It's not always been plain sailing, never is with technology, but it's been fantastic to be able to bring in people from different parts of the world as speakers, to visit the museums that we did in Rio, to that Shenzhen lab, the Museum of Failure in Sweden. We've made it more accessible, I would think, to people who couldn't otherwise have traveled to London in the past. I know Max has put on a great effort to re-show some of the morning talks again in the afternoon. So again, people tuning in from different time zones can log into those. So, you know, there we go. And for all the bumps and, you know, the challenges that we've had along the way, I think it's been very, very successful. So I hope you do as well. I just want to reflect very briefly on where we were on the 16th of November, back on Monday, and some of the things that have happened since. So we started with the general magic guys. And again, I echo Ron's comment earlier. If you haven't seen that, please try and watch it. We then heard from Amazon. We heard from Lego. We've heard from GSK, Procter & Gamble, Airbnb, the Museum of Failure, Miriam Sidibe, Marriott, ING, the Museum of Tomorrow, the Apocalypse with Galit. And then we heard from both Ivy and Tarek at Google. And that was day one, right? So this is just because I've forgotten half of this. We had ballet fit training with the Birmingham Royal Ballet. We had Frank Stevenson. We had Michelle Ha talking about Sidewalk Labs. We had Gil from Mondelez with Sophie and the Ask an Expert. We had Hind from the Dubai KHDA, Michael, Francesca, and Hugh talking about the sustainable world, David from the Shenzhen, Tim from Barclays, Ken from Marvel, and the guys from MIT. We had DHL, we had Facebook talking about AI, we had cocktail making, we had multiculturalism with Walt Disney. And that brings us to today, where you were boxing in the morning, you were listening to Alibaba, you were hearing about the Interstellar Lab. We had book club. We had Carlos Acosta, for goodness sake. I had the pleasure of talking to Carlos Acosta. Wow. We had Teen Tech, always an absolute highlight. Then we had our tribute to Ken Robinson with Ben. Kane Avellino talking about his amazing work around the world trip. We had Impossible Foods. We had IBM. We had InVision. And, you know, last and very much least in that, you get to hear me try and sum all of that up. Now, it's always a mammoth task, but I think this year even more so. There have been over 30 different activities, more than 50 speakers. And I have called on help from Ben and the CDP team, Merle and the team at Kinnear Defoe, who've been leading and facilitating some of these conversations, plus my own team at Brand Genetics. So this is a bit of a work in progress, I would say. We'll try and refine it and share it with you in due course, but hopefully a useful summation as you leave Global Innovation Forum for this year, to go back and go into your businesses or your colleagues or your friends and talk about. So Max, I don't know whether we can now share. I've just got a few slides. Fantastic. Let's try and work our way through this. So, theme number one: to innovate is human. And again, this was something we heard very much on day one. I think it was almost one of the first things Mark Porrett of General Magic said. He said, humans are naturally creative. The superpower is inherent in everyone. And Ken Robinson talks about this. You know, kids are creative problem solvers. We educated out of them. We don't need to grow into education, into creativity. We are. So I think a lot of what struck me is about how do we remove barriers? It's not so much about trying to inspire people or trying to fuel that creativity. Sure, that has a place. But I think if you can find ways within your business, within your team, within yourself, to remove some of the barriers that you see to creativity, you will find the floodgates open. I think that's really important. You know, to innovate is human. And I was really struck by what Hind from KHDA said about this idea of regulators removing the red tape, asking why. You know, why are we still doing that? That was 10 years ago. The world has changed. We had Gil talking about finding the right people. We had the idea from Tim at Barclays about, you know, behind great ideas are great people. And that's absolutely right. But I think that you have the right people, but you also have to give them the right environment. And as Ivy Google said, you know, we need to trust that innately human part of us. It's all well and good to have the data, but intuition matters, and we need to leverage that. Now that leads us neatly, I hope, onto slide, oh, hold on. Theme 2, he says, trying to figure out how he controls this. Let me see what I can do. Do it the old-fashioned way. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. I know we've heard this before, but it seems, again, that one of the big themes we heard from Amazon on day one onwards was that actually you need to create and cultivate a culture of innovation. Easier said than done, for sure. But now more than ever, it seems we're shifting from innovation process to people and culture being a key part of that success. Tim Hurd again gave a stat: 75% of entrepreneurs left corporates because they felt stifled, yet 75% of corporations feel they promote innovative culture. Well, we've talked about removing the barriers, but how can you remove some of those frustrations? Again, Lisa from Marriott talked about this. There's always going to be frustrations, but how can you figure out how those friction points can be made valuable, made enabling, not just being stifling and frustrating? We know innovation comes with friction. We know change comes with challenge. But I think COVID here is a real opportunity. And those poll results showed that one of the most popular silver linings of COVID for innovation was that it was a challenge to business as usual. People have recognized they have to think differently. And I think for all of us, that opens up an opportunity. So, theme number 3. Again, I think there was a lot, and it was really interesting, about finding your own true voice. We heard it from Carlos, we heard it from Ken Lashley, we heard it from Tim Hurd, we heard it from Kane Avellino. There was a sense of an authenticity really coming through. And again, authenticity in a world of fake news. I think Ivy touched on this. And the Museum of Tomorrow touched on this. That's what people are seeking. They're really looking for that. Capturing and channeling the things that really fire you up personally or fire your team up personally matters. And we'll talk about passion, because I think sometimes we're in danger of over-egging passion as the only piece. Hard work needs to go hand in hand with it. It's not good enough just to follow your passions. You need to listen to others. But actually, you know, finding ways to get people who are passionate about these topics and personally engage with them is really important. So we need that authenticity. We need to look into the things that really sort of matter and find that voice, frankly, find our own voice. And as Ken Lashley said, the strongest voice you should listen to is the voice in your head. So again, I think this is where it's about finding your true voice and having an organizational purpose. And I don't, as I said sort of a while back, I don't just mean a piece of paper with a statement written on it. I mean something that really drives you It drives you to make decisions. If you remove everything else and people only knew the purpose, they would make the decisions that are inherently right by your business. I think having that and aligning your people and your purpose is very, very important here. And that can help make that authenticity not just an individual piece, but a collective piece. Collective, well, that brings us on to point number 4. Who are you missing in your collective? Look around you. You know, again, I think inclusivity and diversity were key themes. And Amazon, again, talked about not all great minds think alike. We heard from P&G and Airbnb about the power of diversity. And I'll touch on it as a business opportunity in a moment, but I think as a cultural fostering of creativity and ways of spotting insight, it's hugely, hugely valuable. The biggest problem I think we have sometimes is not recognizing there's a problem. And I mean a problem in terms of a problem that we can solve, an opportunity, frankly. Again, internal diversity will address that. The general magic in the film, it's the intern who says to them, look, you guys, to these amazing brains, these tech superstars, he's saying, look, you guys should really wake up to this internet thing. And they're all so focused on doing it their way that they kind of ignore that. You need those voices, and you need to give them sort of strength. You need to give them power to reflect things. So diversity matters. And then in terms of inclusivity, it's not just the right thing to do, which it absolutely is. It's also a huge market that if you're not being inclusive, you're missing. Estimates suggest around 15% of the global population live with some form of disability. 15% of the global population. That's a staggering figure. Imagine if someone said to you, yeah, we're not going to worry about China, you know, for a global business. It's not that important. I mean, that's the equivalent, right? So finding ways that you can include people and really cater to their needs. And that's just on disability, right? There's so many other forms of inclusivity that I'm sure all missing, and are huge opportunities. That's the business case, and that's surely unarguable. So we're nearly there. There are only 7 of these, you'll be pleased to know. So you don't have to listen to me for too much longer. But number 5, fall in love with the problem, not the idea. And this was Gil from Mondelez talked about this, but I also thought it came through in Alibaba. Lynn from Alibaba's talk, Carlos Acosta talked about it. Again, Ken and General Magic, it's about being consumer-centric and putting their problems at the heart of what you're trying to do. When people talk about consumer-centric, oh, we're consumer-centric, we put the consumer at the heart of it. Does it really ring true unless you really deeply understand the problem, the consumer problem, the consumer job to be done? That's what you need to solve. Don't just say it. Go out there and figure out how you're going to do it, because you fall in love with that, because it is a love story. It isn't all ups. It is a lot of downs as well. And as long as you're in love with the problem, you will work hard to deliver against it, frankly. If you're in love with your solution, you won't be able to kill. You know, the solution may not work. If you're in love with the problem, it will. Kill your darlings, I think Allen Ginsberg said. Have structures that mean you can kill ideas fast if they're not working. But that's learning, right? Hard work. Never forget that it's an escalation. You know, we really need to take time. There's incubation. There's layer after layer. And when you're in love with the problem, when you have that deep passion for that issue that you're trying to solve, you will build on that. You will develop it. And what we're seeing is that increasingly business models are starting to be more about that than about a product. So Lisa at Marriott talked about moving to be a travel company rather than a hotel business. Again, you know, consumers want to travel. It's the old adage of, I don't want a 9-inch, you know, drill bit. I want a hole in the wall rather than anything else. I want beautiful hands, not hand cream. So how do you find that way to really define and fall in love with that problem? So that's number 5. Hopefully this is useful. Hopefully, I know I'm skating over so much that richness, and this is a very much a sort of my distillation. I'm sure you will all pick up things that have been missed. But I think number 6, penultimate one, is this power of, let's just for the time being label it failure. But I want to really help us redefine this. Was General Magic, back where we started on day 1, was General Magic a failure? For those of you who didn't attend, General Magic, in effect, created the concept of the smartphone. This thing that we all carry around with us today, they had created and they were working towards back in the early 90s. Now, in the redwood forest, once a tree dies, it provides all the nutrients to the other trees to grow from it. And that, to me, is sometimes what's going on, the redwood falling in the forest. So it's not failure, but it's fuel for future creativity. And whether that's your business, in the case of General Magic, fueling others, and look what came out of that, literally the guy who designed the iPhone, the iPod, the guy who set up eBay, the guy who set up Android. I mean, you know, incredible, incredible stuff. But we have to be cognizant of the fact that we're going to have bumps along the road. It's not all going to work, and we have to have a go. And Ken Robinson talks about this. Kids have a go. They're not frightened to be wrong. We mustn't stigmatize failure. The freedom to fail is the freedom to challenge boundaries. The Museum of Failure, right? Mondelez, Disney. There's a challenge in every innovation, and the bigger the idea, frankly, the bigger the risk. But the freedom to fail liberates innovation. Don't be afraid of failure. You learn so much from it, said Gil. There are no such things as golden rules. Take some chances, said Ken Lashley. Don't be afraid of failure. You know, it's just the fail good, fail well. It's positive failure, said Sam West of the Museum of Failure. So I think we need to find a better word for this, frankly. We have to recognize failure. We have to own it. We have to learn from it. But it's not about stopping. It's about the start of something. Every success is fueled by lots of little failures along the way. Right, last but not least, it's the theme of the conference, but genuinely, don't forget to have fun, guys. It's the crazy stories, the risks you took that you remember. And Kane Avellino talked about this, you know, his 8 near-death experiences. I bet those are the stories that really stick with him far more than the things where he played it safe. Playing safe, you know, isn't fun, frankly. You know, if you want to stick to the rules, you know, good on you. But we really have to push the boundaries in innovation, and we have to enjoy doing it. Again, Gil, I know I keep referring to his talk, but I think it was a great one. This idea of wearing the Farmy t-shirt once a year. If you can't put on your Farmy t-shirt once a year, then you're not pushing hard enough, right? Play is important within this. And when we talk about having fun, kids know what this is about, right? As a kid, we did it. Look at the teen tech guys. You know, they enjoy what they're doing. They're doing it with a great big smile on their face. This is extracurricular for them. And when we play as kids do, imagination gets fueled. In companies, we're so driven by productivity, as Ivy Ross pointed out. Productivity can be the enemy of play. Play has no determined output. So why don't you just sort of give yourself a little bit of scope to play and your team to play? Carve out some time to play. I know that's easier said than done. I know we sometimes nod at these things and think, God, where am I going to fit that into the diary? But actually, if you don't, you're risking hindering your creativity. Have fun with it. As Ken Lashley again said, you know, do the 5 designs that they want and the 2 designs that you want. And by and large, you find that they choose the designs that you want. As Walt Disney said, it's kind of fun to do the impossible. And as we move on to these big challenges, sustainability, inclusivity, even just big challenges within your organizations, not necessarily global or environmental challenges, but things that really matter to you and your businesses. Have fun with it, enjoy it. You will be more creative when you're having fun. And as the Google saying says, you don't have to be serious to solve serious problems. So that has been a whistle-stop tour of those key points. I hope useful ones. So what have we said, really? To innovate is human, number one. Culture, innovation culture will eat strategy, or innovation process, maybe I should have said, for breakfast. Find your own true creative voice, your own true perspective. Make sure you are thinking, who are we missing, both in terms of your internal team and perspectives, but also in terms of your customer. Fall in love with the problem, not the solution, not what your company does. Fall in love with the problem you're trying to solve. Success is built on failure. That's what we've got to all recognize, and we've got to all create environments, safe environments, where it is okay to fail well, to learn from that, to create environments of positive failure. And finally, don't forget to have fun, guys. So I think from my point of view, that's it. I mean, what can I do justice to in 25 minutes or so of summing up nearly 4 days of a wonderful, inspiring speakers and talks. Please, you will be getting a link about feedback. We'd love to hear from you and what worked for you, what didn't work for you. Again, your feedback is a gift. Please give generously. I would also like to say a huge thank you to all our speakers. I've tried to name check at least some of them, and sorry to any that I may have missed. To the sponsors, to the expo, to the artists who have been drawing those fantastic creative visualizations of every talk that you've been, and of course to Max and his team, the Selectiva team, who have worked so hard to not just put this together, but to adapt it to be safe and COVID friendly, but hopefully in some ways more innovative than ever before. I have missed seeing you all. I've missed meeting you all, genuinely, sadly. I hope, and maybe, you know, if people are up for it, jump on the networking for 10, 15 minutes after this. If you haven't used it, it's a great way to just sort of meet some people. It's a bit sort of speed dating, but go on there, and, you know, video connections are really good fun. So go on there. It's such an important part of any conference, is the networking side of things. So I encourage you to do that. But I truly hope that come 2021, next year, we will all be able to be together in person. I know that there's things that we're going to take that have proved great successes from this year that perhaps we were too stuck in our tracks to do before, and that this time has opened our eyes to new ways of doing things. I wish you all the very best of luck. I wish you all the very best of health and happiness for the end of 2020. It's been a tough year, I know, but look back on what we've learned, not just from the past 3 days, but from the past 9 months. And I'm sure you will find that you emerge stronger and more creative for it. So that's it from me. I just want to say thank you again to all of you for attending, for taking the time, for making the time. And it really, GIF wouldn't be GIF without its GIF community. So that's all of you. Thank you.